Alright guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today. For this one, we are going to do another out and about video. So we're still in Berlin and we're right next to the Hackescher Markt Bahnhof train station. So we're going to have a little look at Brauhaus Lemke. Now these guys have a few different locations, but from what I understand this one is the original one and it's also the one where they brew the beer. So I thought this would be the best one to come and take a look at. So we'll do as we always do, we'll go in, we'll have a little look at the beers, a little look at the menu, and we might have something to eat as well. We'll need to decide about that. But yeah, curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. There's kind of two entrances to this place, so before we go in I will let you quickly have a look at the other one, so just in a second. Alright, so there you go, Brauerei, Biergarten und Deutsche Küche. That's Lemke. So yeah, this is the little beer garden at the back. I'm here just when it's opening because I don't like crowds that much. So yeah, I thought I would come and check it out when it's quiet. It's also a bit nicer to film, but you can imagine that in the summer days and stuff like that, this would be really fun to kind of chill with your friends. But yeah, they've got this nice kind of hanging sort of, it's be an ivy garden, I don't know, it's not bloomed yet, but there you can see once again the Berlin TV tower. So yeah, let's go inside and have a look. Alright guys, so yeah, just to let you see the entrance from the other side, so here it is. As you can see down there on my right, there is the Berlin train station, and then of course you can see the Berlin TV tower in the background. So yeah, here you are, this is it from the other side. Oh, and there's one of the classic Berlin S-Bahn trains. There you are. You're seeing it all today on Rampant Lion Reviews. There you go. So yeah guys, it turns out that the entrance on the street side is the main one, but this place is pretty awesome, I have to say. This is really, really cool. But yeah, we're under the railway of course. There you can see lovely kind of traditional German bar, some rum behind there as well, which is awesome. But yeah, this place looks really cool. Out here you've got the beer garden where we were just walking a minute ago. But as I say, that side you can't get into sometimes. The side out on the street is where the main entrance is. But yeah, lovely little bar, I have to say. They've also got this room through here which is like the restaurant. But yeah, this seems as if it's kind of closed just now, so not gonna go in here too much, but yeah, you can see it's pretty awesome. They've got the old kettles here. I'm not sure if they will brew on those or if those are just kind of for show, but yeah, this place is pretty awesome, I have to say. So yeah, really like this. I think I made the right choice in coming to this one. So yeah, let's go back and have a little look at our first beer then, which is going to be the Bohemian Pilsner. Alright guys, well our first tasting here then at Brauhaus Lemke. So yeah, first one I went for was the Bohemian Pilsner. I don't think I've ever tried a German brewed Czech style Pilsner, so I just kind of thought why not, and out of the other, in comparison to the other beers, I think this is a very, very good starting point. So yeah, when this beer poured, it had a solid finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head. You can see on the glass there we have the lovely Brauhaus Lemke symbol, which is nice. But as you would expect from a Bohemian Pilsner or Pilsen, whatever, this is poured a lovely, nice golden straw colour. Pretty clear, as you can see when I put my fingers behind the glass. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, but a few little ones going up toward the bottom of that head there. So it looks very, very nice. Yeah, exactly as you would expect from a Bohemian Pilsner. So let's take a look at the aroma and see how we go. So yeah, aroma-wise, this is exactly what you'd expect. So, backbone of the beer, you've got a lovely little bit of bread crust in there. You can smell that soft white bread, but it's also quite crisp at the same time. Yeah, I do like that. I love a good Pilsner malt base, especially when you've got just a little bit of breadness to it. So yeah, little touch of bread crust, soft white bread in there. You got a nice little bit of biscuit out of this as well, a McVitie's digestive biscuit kind of thing. yeah, it's got a mix of everything. A little bit of sweetness, a little bit of the bready and bread crust. This is exactly what you want from a Bohemian Pilsner beer, or a Czech Pilsen, as we might say. On the hoppy side of things, a little bit of earthiness. You can smell that slightly stronger spicy floral aromaticity that you'll get from the Czech hops, the Žatec, Sats, as they're known in German as well. So you get that nice spicy floral aromaticity. There's quite a wee bit of grassiness in there. It's a little bit zesty. But yeah, you do get that slightly kind of more snappy, spicy sort of thing that you would expect from the Czech Pilsen rather than the German Pilsner. I always found it's just the difference in the hops really is the main kind of thing, and the malts can be a wee bit different too. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, you've got a little bit of a nice kind of light grassy sort of vibe to it. You also have a little bit of a kind of, I would say, yeah, you've got a little bit of that kind of apricot-y sultana type vibe as well. So it's interesting. It is really nice how the fruity side of this beer goes together. But yeah, a little bit of a gooseberry, a little bit of a kind of sultana type vibe, and maybe just a wee bit of those kind of grassy esters. So yeah, I think this one goes together pretty damn nicely, I have to say. So yeah, I forgot to say earlier, this one comes in at 5% ABV. So yeah, I think it's saying as well 35 BE. I don't know if that's German for IBU, but we'll find out. It might be. But let's get stuck into this one. So yeah, this is the Bohemian Pilsner from Brauhaus Lemke here in Berlin. Slange, Skål, cheers, Prost. That's nice. I'm going to say, when you first take this beer in, very, very clean, very, very smooth, a little bit oily. But yeah, that is nice. Very, very easy drinking, this one, I have to say. Gets a thumbs up from me. I love this style, and I think this is a very nice example of it. So yeah, pretty damn good. So let's break this one down as we always do with these beers. So middle of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of bread crust in there, a lovely smooth, lovely kind of smooth, white bready sort of thing. But yeah, it is one of the more kind of bready pilsners that I've come across. So it definitely has the kind of breadiness you'd expect of the Czech Pilsen, but it's got a bit of the kind of cleanliness and things that you'd expect of the German Pilsner. You can hear the trains going overhead. This is really cool being in here, actually. I really like it. So yeah, the malt base on this is nice. Bit of bread crust, lovely smooth but wet white bready base, little bit of McVitie's kind of digestive biscuit sort of thing, and a wee bit of grainy dryness the further you go into the aftertaste. On the back third of the palate, you can feel the bready graininess is a little bit stronger, and the flavour is a little bit taller. You get a wee bit of the yeastiness as well, but I think it's a wee bit more bitter and dry. The graininess, it's similar flavours, but the graininess just comes out a wee bit more on the back third of the palate. So that's quite interesting. Let's look at the hoppy side of things. Yeah, for me, pardon me, hoppy side of this beer, you've got a little bit of earthiness in the back corners of your palate as you come further forward, a little bit more kind of floral and aromatic, which I really like. And again, it has a wee bit of that kind of spiciness that you'd expect from the Czech Žatec hop, Sats. And then round the front curve of the palate, you've got a little bit of a lighter grassiness there, and it's a wee bit zesty as well. Front third of your palate, where you'd expect the fruity sort of things, the base of that's a little bit bread crusty and a wee bit of a smooth white bread. On top of that, you've got the nice kind of oily things as well, which is good. So yeah, fruity side of this beer is kind of as you would expect. You've got a little bit, you do have a little bit of a kind of, how would you say, you've got a little bit of a kind of sultana type vibe at the back of that front third of your palate. As you come further forward, you get more oily apricot-y notes. There's a wee bit of that kind of gooseberry sort of thing going on as well. A little bit of an oily pear. And these are all things that you can expect from any type of Pilsner beer, be it the Czech Pilsen or the German Pilsner. But yeah, this is a solid take on the beer actually. It's kind of interesting. It's quite an oily, if I think about it from the Czech perspective, I find this one quite oily. actually, but I like this. I do like this. It's like Czech. I suspect this is Czech hopped, but German malted. I think that's what's going on with this one. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, then to round off, toward the top end, the light-bodied, smooth carbonation, a little bit oily and slick, nice wee bit of bitterness. I think 30-35 IBUs. I think that's what BE on the tap list is there, 35 IBUs, so a wee bit more bitterness. Malt base is really smooth, a little touch of biscuity sweetness, and a wee bit of an oily, fruity character. But the Bohemian Pilsner, pretty damn solid, I have to say. So looking forward to the next one. I need to decide what I'm going to get next, so catch you in a second. Alright guys, so here is a look at the tap list then, and they have some quite unusual things here when you think about this being like a German brew pub essentially. So yeah, we have the Original, Vienna Lager beer, a Bohemian Pilsner, Weizen, the 030 Pale Ale 030, I guess you would say, the Bürike Weisse, this should be quite interesting, India Pale Ale IPA, Imperial Ipa, Hopfenweisse, and a Berliner Perle as well. That could be quite interesting, but yeah, quite an unusual tap selection here when you think about this as being like a German Brauhaus. Awesome. Yeah. Alright then, well guys, time for beer number 2 then here at Brauhaus Lemke. So yeah, the second one we've gone for is the Weizen. So this one comes in at 5.5% ABV. And yeah, the main reason I got this one is just because I haven't had a Weizen in what feels like a very long time, and we're better to do that than Germany, of course. So yeah, as you can see, this one poured with a lovely, very, very frothy, let me just bring that up to you, you can see, very, very frothy, I would say very, very slightly cream coloured head there, but beautiful, beautiful headline. You always get lovely heads on Weizen beers. This one, of course, is Untappd, unfiltered Hefeweizen. But yeah, it's kind of poured as you would expect. So you've got a lovely, very bright yellow colour. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on the different malts that you have. And Untappd Hefeweizen is just, you know, lots of wheat, pale malt, and I think maybe one or two other little bits and bobs too. But yeah, lovely kind of pale golden straw colour, this one. And if I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see it's not the haziest of Hefeweizens that we've come across, but yeah, it certainly has a little bit of that kind of naturally hazy vibe to it. But yeah, not too much carbonation visible in this one. These beers are known for being very, very smooth. Before I went to Germany back in like 2014 it was now, it's crazy to think how long ago that was, about 8 years. Before I moved to Heidelberg, I used to be able to drink Hefeweizens. You know, I could session them, but then after I got used to the Helles and drinking those beers, I couldn't session them anymore. So for me now, a Hefeweizen is very much a tasting beer. So yeah, as I say, not had one of these in quite a while, so let's look at the aroma. Appearance is everything you would expect from this style. So, on the nose, you get that lovely big kind of bready note that you always expect. There's a bit of bread crust in there, you can smell that lovely soft fresh white bread. You get the little tiny touch of banana, the kind of clovey, spicy sort of thing. There's that wee bit of the bubblegum kind of character as well, but this one I would say is more kind of clovey and smooth. This is a very, very smooth smelling Hefeweizen, I have to say. It's certainly not the most candied of ones that I've come across, but it's a lovely, lovely smelling beer that I really, really like this. Yeah, this is very, very good. Yeah, the malt base in this is just lovely. I mean, the kind of bready character that you get out of this is almost just like the flour that you get on the edge of like a hedgehog bread roll, you know, just a really freshly baked bread. But yeah, you've just got the right balance of bread crust, soft white bread, the clovey spice, that wee bit of the kind of doughy, yeasty sort of thing. Almost like it almost smells like there's a little touch of coriander or something to it. But of course that is against the Reinheitsgebot, so I very much doubt that that's in there. That would be more akin to a Belgian wit, sorry, I should say. But yeah, you do have just a little touch of that kind of candied, a little bit of that candied kind of bubblegum sort of vibe to this beer. But that smells very, very nice. If I remember rightly, a Hefeweizen malt is usually about 40% Weizen malt, so that is pretty cool. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, there's not too much to report on that. The Hefeweizen is not an overly hop-forward style of beer. There's a tiny bit of earthiness, a little bit of herbal character, of course, and then the rest of the green component for me is mainly grassy. You do get a little bit of floral character, but yeah, not too much coming out of this beer in the way of kind of green hoppy character, if that at all makes sense. But lovely smelling beer. This one, my first Weizen in what feels like a very long time. Let's get stuck into this. So yeah, this is simply called Weizen, 5.5% ABV. Brauhaus Lemke. Slange, Skål, cheers, Prost. Oh yeah. Trying things like this really does make you miss a style of beer. I need to drink more Weizens. This is very good. This is very, very nice. It's the thing is as well, this finds a good balance between being like big and flavourful, which is what you expect from the Weizen, but it's also got an element of that kind of nice drinkability to it. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's got a lovely smoothness to it as well. Just a very nicely done beer. You can't really ask for much more. So, where do we start with this one? Yeah, backbone of the beer for me is what you'd expect. Middle third of the palate, a little bit of a smooth, bread crusty sort of thing, but very, very minimal. On top of that, you get that big, smooth, almost slightly silky white bready character out of the beer. You can feel the wheat just thickening all of that out. Within that bready note, you get a little bit of the banana. You can feel the sort of clovey spice kind of sitting on top of all that bread. And yeah, there's that bit of bubblegum sweetness, I think, and that comes out a little bit more toward the front of that middle third of the palate. It's really nice. Remember, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate than more bitter flavours, so you need to keep that in mind. Yeah, this is pretty solid on the malty side of things. On the back of that, on the back of that middle third of your palate, it starts to just get thicker, and then when you go into the back third of the palate, there's that wee bit of bread crust, the thicker, fluffy white bread, and you've also got that big kind of yeasty character in there as well. So the yeast smell feels like a very kind of dry, soft, white bready kind of thing, and you get a wee bit more of that sort of almost coriander type flavour out of this one, which is really, really cool. So a lot of clovey, coriander stuff going on in this beer for me, but this is good. I like this. Yeah. This is pretty damn solid. I love the smoothness that you get out of this beer too. But let's focus on the hoppy side of things. So back corners of the palate, little bit of earthiness there, but again that's very smooth. As you come further forward, it gets a little bit herbal, wee bit of floral character on the front corners of your palate, and round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and grassier. There's a wee touch of zestiness there, but as you would expect from a Hefeweizen, the hoppy character is very, very smooth. This is a low IBU beer, absolutely. Let's look at the front third of your palate then. So the base of that front third of your palate, once again, is the big smooth kind of breadiness that you would expect of a Hefeweizen. But on top of that, you're getting lots of other things there, lovely soft fruity notes. So yeah, it has this kind of apricot-y character to it. Again, you get this sort of dry sultana, white green grapey notes as you come further forward. You've got a bit of banana sitting in there as well, but I also get little elements of a very slight, in the front half of that front third of your palate, it's got a wee bit of a kind of gooseberry type vibe to it as well, so that's really interesting too. The fruity side of this beer is actually quite dry in its character, but yeah, gooseberry, a little bit of apricot, the banana notes coming out as well. It's a lovely Hefeweizen, this. You could easily session a few of these. I've always been impressed with people that can do that. But yeah, for me, as I say, these days the Hefeweizen beer is an occasional tasting beer, but that's a very nice, lighter, kind of wet, drinkable example. So let's round off with the mouthfeel then. Yeah, I mean, for me, this beer, it's very much mid-bodied. It's right in the middle of the spectrum, although for me it's one of the lighter Hefeweizens I've had. The carbonation is lovely and smooth. It's just got this lovely kind of, it's not quite silky, but it's just very smooth and almost slightly creamy. It's got that lovely, just big smooth vibe to it, which I really, really enjoy. On the hoppy side of things, you know, this is very low bitterness. A Hefeweizen always is, and I know that 15 IBUs is a standard for these Hefeweizens, and it says 15 BE on the board, so I'm pretty sure that that thing I was talking about is the bitterness level. So that BE must be German for IBU, but yeah, really nice and smooth in that sense. The malt base is lovely and thick, but smooth at the same time, as we said. Just a little bit of hoppy bitterness and a wee bit of a dry fruity character. A wee bit of spice in this one as well, of course, from the sort of coriander, kind of clovey flavours. So yeah, this is a really, really nice beer, this one. I like how this goes together. I think it's a big thumbs up from me. So that is the Weizen. Let's have a think and we'll see what we're going to go on to next. Cheers just now. So guys, I saw a Berliner Weisse on the tap list, and it occurred to me that I have never drank a Berliner Weisse in Berlin, so why not? Let's do this. This looks pretty cool. Alright, so Berliner Weisse time. So yeah, they've given us this. I do like this, how they have the special Berliner Weisse glass. That is pretty awesome, I have to say. But there, again, you can see it Lemke Brauhaus. Pretty awesome bottle, I have to say. We got to see this a second ago. But yeah, when you're in Berlin, you have to try an original Berliner Weisse, so why not? This is pretty cool. Quite different from the Berliner Weisses that we have in all these different craft breweries these days. So yeah, you can see this one has poured with very, very little head. It's pretty much a bright golden straw colour, only a little bit of haze to it. So yeah, pretty interesting, I have to say. I don't think I've ever had one from a German brewery that hasn't had any kind of syrup or anything like that in it, because of course the tradition is that they put, you know, raspberry, cherry, Walmeister, some sort of syrup in these things to make them, you know, quite sour but also very sweet at the same time. So yeah, trying an original, unplayed with Berliner Weisse in Berlin is pretty cool. So yeah, let's have a little look at this. So it's just simply called, yeah, Boutique Weisse. It's pretty nice. 3.5% ABV. Can't really do much more than that. Just a little quick look at the label for you there. Boutique Weisse, 3.5% ABV. So yeah, let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see what we get from it. Right guys, so yeah, apologies for the edit there. We're just getting on to the aroma. So like I was saying, when you smell this beer, you get a lovely mix of different things. I mean, straight away you can smell that kind of citricy tartness that you expect of a Berliner Weisse, but underneath it just has this really smooth, creamy, wheaty, bready sort of thing. It's very difficult to describe this. You do get a little bit of bread crust in there, then on top of that you get this wet, wheaty, white bready, bread crusty sort of mix. Yeah, it's almost got a teeny little bit of that sort of clovey spice that you might get from a Hefeweizen, for example, but then it's just got this sort of sweet, herbally, woody kind of vibe to it as well. The Berliner Weisses give you some really, really weird aromas, and this one kind of does that as well. It's this is a beer that can really, this is a style that can really kind of catch you off guard if you're not sure what you're looking for. I'm curious as to whether this particular example is going to have hops in it. Does it say? Yes, it does. So yes, it's hop on the side of the bottle here, so this definitely does have a little bit of hop in it. One of the things you always have to remember with a Berliner Weisse is that they will add old hops to it so that it doesn't detract from the kind of tartness of the beer. Because yeah, the main thing of course with the Berliner Weisses is that they have a specialist yeast to give you that nice kind of sour tart flavour. But yeah, there is a little bit of that kind of bubblegummy candy sort of thing going on in this, and that comes out a little bit more the further that you go into this beer. But on the hoppy side of things, you've got a little bit of earthiness, as I say, a little bit of a herbal character, but quite a nice bright grassy vibe to it as well. So I do like how that goes together in this one. Yeah, the aroma of this is quite interesting. On the fruity side of things, you do have that kind of sharp lemony tart vibe. There's a wee bit of a kind of candied banana sort of thing, definitely. And a wee bit of an almost kind of like oily, pavey, apricot-y kind of vibe. You know, the thing is, with most of the Berliner Weisses and stuff that I drink these days, they've all got fruit and things added to them. So to try a kind of raw, untouched Berliner Weisse is a little bit of a treat, actually. So I'm really curious to see what this is, how this one is going to turn out. It's quite unusual because you recognise some of these elements in it. It's just like a slightly tart Hefeweiss in a lot of ways. So yeah, as I always say, take a wee bit of time to just mull over the aroma of the beers before you get stuck into them. But yeah, this one is the Boudica Weisse, 3.5% ABV. I'll taste this now. Slange, Skull, cheers. Oh, it's my first natural Berliner Weisse in Berlin. That's awesome. There we go. I'm going to say straight away, that has some impact on it, that has some real tartness to it in the beginning. I'm curious to see whether that's going to be maintained as we drink more of it. Yeah, it does stick there. I like it though, I really like this. So, first impression of it is that it does have quite a sharp tartness to it. It's got a really kind of, it's got this really, it has just this little bit of zest to it as well. So when you take it in, it has quite a tart impact, but then it just mellows out a wee bit, and that kind of smooths out, and you start to get some of the sweetness. So yeah, compared to the more modern, can we say, the more modern Berliner Weisses that I would drink, the tartness in this one certainly lasts a wee bit longer. But at the same time, you can definitely see on the basis of this beer what all these modern craft breweries are trying to do. Because, you know, I wouldn't have expected a kind of regular untouched Berliner Weisse to be so kind of smooth and sweet in a sense. It really has a very sweet backbone to it. It's just the tartness lies on top of that. So let's break this down. So yeah, the middle and the back third of your palate there, we can kind of pair these together in this beer actually. You do get the tiniest little bit of bread crust underneath it. On top of that, you get a little bit of, you do get a little bit of the soft white bread, but then you've got this really thick, very dense layer of kind of wheaty character out of it. And the wheat is almost quite sweet in this. You do get a little touch of like a slightly candied, bubblegummy type flavour to this one. Yeah, it's just got this lovely, smooth, wheaty, white bready note to it. But on top of that, the further you go into the aftertaste, particularly in the middle third of the palate, you start to get a little touch of a kind of Werther's Original kind of vibe to the beer. So it's really interesting how that goes together too. Yeah, you certainly do get a little bit of that Werther's Original. So a little circle in the middle of your palate, you start to get a wee bit of Werther's Original type vibe out of this beer in the very centre of your palate. So that's kind of interesting too. On the back third of your tongue, you can feel it's mainly bready, so a little bit of bread crust, thicker white bready layer, and on top of that there's a wee bit of a kind of really thick, doughy, quite yeasty vibe to this beer. So I do like how that plays out in this one. But yeah, back third of your palate, the flavour is definitely taller. As you come into the middle third of your palate, it condenses down a wee bit. So hoppy side of things there. I think we've covered everything about the malty, yeasty side of the beer. Back corners of the palate, a little touch of earthiness. As you move further forward, it's a wee bit herbal, and the hops overall are very smooth, but as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate, it's got a little touch of floral character to it, and round the front curve of the tongue, it's got quite a wet grassiness to it, but the grassiness is fairly zesty at the same time, so that's interesting too. Front third of your palate though, and the fruity side of things. Backbone of that front third of your palate is the smooth, wheaty character again, and again that gets a little bit sweeter, there's a wee bit more of that kind of banana-y, bubblegummy vibe to it, but on top of that, you do have a wee touch of a kind of oily, fruity note to it. For me, it's a little mix of, you know, the sultana, gooseberry, and slightly oily, peary kind of thing once again. So, yeah, interesting how that kind of plays out in this beer. So, yeah, this goes together quite interestingly in that regard. It's really cool just to try a raw, unplayed with Berliner Weisse. I think this is very, very nice. And especially when it's from such a kind of local brewery as this one. Awesome stuff, actually. Yeah, so the full name of this brewery is Brauhaus Lemke Berlin. So yeah, I should be calling it Handwerksbrauerei, handmade, handcrafted, we should say, brewery, Lemke Berlin. But yeah, this has been a really interesting experience to try this beer. Let's round off with the mouthfeel. So, mouthfeel wise, for me, for a Berliner Weisse, it's certainly not the thickest and creamiest of ones. I would say it's kind of right in the middle. The carbonation has a bit of crispness to it, I think. Overall, it's quite a wet, but it's quite oily beer at the same time too. Very little bitterness. I think this has got to be, you know, like 5 or 6 IBUs, something like that. I think technically speaking, a Berliner Weisse would be 0 IBUs, but yeah, maybe 5 IBUs, something like that. Maltiness, as we said, is very smooth, little touch of sweetness to it. Tartness on this is quite sharp in a sense, but it's also got quite a nice oily, fruity note to it as well. So yeah, really cool to try a kind of untouched Berliner Weisse, this one. So yeah, this was the Boutique Weisse, 3.5% ABV. This one came out of a bottle compared to the others. So yeah, let's go on to our next one and see what we do. It's landed just now. So yeah guys, they also have this big fridge of bottled beer that you can take away. So yeah, there we go. There is the Bohemian Pilsner, the Helles, the Weizenbock IPA. That I think sounds very interesting. The Helles Hefeweizen. They have the West Coast IPA, Dunkel Lager, Black Rye IPA, India just regular IPA. Mix of a 4-pack down there, and you'll see that on the other side. As we go up, they've got the 030, the Berlin Pale Ale, the Berliner Eiche. They have a Winterbock, which I'm sure I would love. They have the Waldmeister. I've had a Waldmeister Berliner Kindle, which is really unusual. This green kind of thing. But yeah, the Berliner Weisse. They have the Kirschbier, the cherry beer, and also the Himbeere Weiss. So that is a raspberry Weizen. They have an Imperial Stout as well, and also the Imperial IPA. So again, repeating myself here, but they have some really interesting beer styles available here. So yeah, this is cool. A mix of American and traditional German and Berliner stuff. Awesome. Alright then guys, well, beer tasting number 4 then here at Brauhaus Lemke. So our next one is a little bit different, and this is a style that you don't see all that often in Germany, so that was the main reason I decided I wanted to try this one. So this particular beer is called Original. It comes in at 5.4% ABV, and this one is a Vienna Lager beer. So yeah, this is a style that I got really into fairly recently because one of my subscribers sent me a lot of Vienna Lagers brewed in the Vienna area, so I feel that I've got a good awareness of this style now, I guess we could say. So yeah, to see a German brewed Vienna Lager I think is pretty cool. But anyway, so as you can see, this beer poured with about a finger of a frothy, I would say kind of fawn coloured head. It does have a very slight beige tint to it, so I think fawn is a good kind of colour descriptor for the head there. But the beer itself is definitely a very light sort of copper colour. If we shine the light through it, it's got a very nice kind of light coppery colour to it. But yeah, sort of a little bit of natural haze to it, one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But in terms of what you would expect appearance-wise from a Vienna Lager, it has everything you would want. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma and see what we're getting from this. That again smells very, very nice. So, aroma-wise, this beer, it just delivers everything you want from the style. It really does. Yeah, you've got a whole mix of things going on with this. It's just got the lovely breadiness, bit of sweetness to it, and it's just got that classic Central European hoppy character. Everything that you would want from the Vienna Lager. The thing that I learned about this style was that it, you know, the impression that I had of it was that it was a very sweet lager, but these ones can really show a more bready and grainy side, and most of the ones that I tried from the Vienna area were like that, in fact. So we need to keep that in mind when we taste this one. So yeah, on the aroma side of things, definitely a little bit of a kind of brown bready, slightly toasty bread crust, little touch of that sort of German rye bread kind of thing, but on top of that you have a slightly lighter wholemeal bready type vibe. A little touch of woodiness, a little bit of nuttiness of course, slightly toasty caramel note to this. You do get a bit of a more oily, sweet caramel out of the beer as well. And definitely some McVitie's digestive biscuit characters too. I love Vienna malt. If you use Vienna malt in an IPA or whatever, it can just add so much depth to the beer, and you can smell that with this. The Vienna malt is so diverse. It gives you biscuit, brown bread, a little bit of woodiness, crackery characters. You're getting the lot out of this beer. Yeah, the malty aroma out of this one is very nice. So it's got a lovely, smooth but slightly grainy brown bread, wholemeal bread type character to it. And then just the brown sugar sitting on top. Very, very nice smelling beer, and it depicts, I don't know, can we say that when it's a German brew Vienna Lager? It depicts the originality of the style pretty damn well, I have to say. That's a really nice smelling beer, this one. I love trying these lager beers. You know, when you come to Germany and you can try these on tap, it's just insane. But I need to go to Vienna and actually try some Vienna lagers on tap. That's one of my goals that I have for the channel over the next little while, for sure. But yeah, malty, yeasty side of the aroma on this one, very nice. On the hoppy side of the beer, lovely little bit of smooth earthiness in there, a wee touch of a herbal character. Yeah, a little bit of floral note, a bit of a lighter grassiness. I think the green component in this one is well balanced between that more earthy herbal side of things and a bit of the lighter, brighter, grassy and floral character. There's quite a few wee things going on in this that I think are very nice. Yeah, aroma-wise though, this beer is really very authentic on the Austrian Vienna Lager side of things, I should say. These beers are starting to go to my head now, just so you know. But yeah, I think that covers the hoppy and the malty and yeasty side of things. On the fruity side of the beer, you know, you've got a little bit of that light blackcurrant sort of thing, a little bit of a light kind of candied strawberry. You know, you're always going to get a little bit of a light fruit from a Vienna Lager. So a little touch of blackcurrant, a little bit of a kind of candied strawberry type thing for me. Yeah, maybe a very slight figgy note. But yeah, this smells pretty damn good, I have to say. So let's have a taste of this one. This is called Original. 5.4% ABV. This is a Vienna Lager beer. Slange, skål, cheers, prost. That's solid once again. Yeah, first impression of this is that it's very smooth, but it shows off the grainy side of the brown bread really nicely. yeah. That's a really interesting example of the Vienna Lager. It's very, very smooth, but it really shows you the drier, grainier side of this style the further into the aftertaste that you go. Yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me for sure. Absolutely. Let's break this down for you then. Middle third of the palate, backbone of the beer, absolutely quite a strong brown bready, bread crusty kind of thing. That's the backbone of the beer. On top of that, we've got a little bit of a more kind of smooth rye bready sort of thing coming out of it. So that's interesting. And then you get a little bit of that lighter and slightly sweeter wholemeal bread. On top of that, we have a sort of toasty layer of brown sugar. And the brown sugar almost has a little bit of a kind of leathery vibe to it, and that usually can indicate a slightly longer wort boil. So bear that in mind. Do bear that in mind. But yeah, you do. So you've got that circle in the middle of your palate, the toasty brown sugar, the slightly more leathery brown sugar on top. It doesn't have an explicitly oily and sweet caramel side to it, but as you go out from the dead centre of your palate, it gets a little bit of a more kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. So yeah, that's where the biggest variety of flavour is in this beer, right in the dead centre of the palate, in that middle third of your tongue. But on the back third of your palate, you can feel a slightly stronger, more grainy breadiness, a thicker brown bready layer, then a wee bit of the yeasty character on top. The yeasty side of the beer is a little bit more of like a dry but still quite dense brown bready sort of thing. So I do like how that goes together. For me, this Dunkel is again quite a bready and grainy one, but it has a bit more brown sugar, so it's quite well balanced in that sense. I always going to rate this for a Vienna Lager. I think I said a Dunkel a second ago, so my apologies for that. For a Vienna Lager, this one has a really nice smooth breadiness to it, so I like that. I do like that. This is one of the more bready Vienna lagers that I've had. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, a nice little bit of a smooth earthiness. As you move further forward, a little bit herbal, and as that herbal character continues as you push toward the front corner of the palate, a little bit of a floral aromaticity. Round the front curve of the palate, it's a wee bit lighter and grassy. And yeah, the front third of the palate is quite interesting. The base of the front third of the palate is a wee bit of a kind of smooth brown bready sort of thing. On top of that, the oily fruity flavours. Let's look at those. Oily fruity flavours are quite nice. I mean, for me, I would say it has a little touch of that kind of figgy sort of thing to it, a little bit of a blackcurranty vibe. Yeah. The more that I drink of this though, the more of the kind of grainy brown bready sort of thing I get out of this beer, so that's interesting. But yeah, very little touch of a candied strawberry, little touch of a fig, and a little bit of that very slightly blackcurranty note. But certainly on the fruity side of things, it's not the sweetest Vienna Lager that I've come across. Let's round off with a mouthfeel. Yeah. For me, top end light bodied. Carbonation has a degree of crispness to it, but it's also quite a smooth beer. So I like that about it. In terms of IBUs, 20-25 IBUs. It says on the board 26, so I could agree with that. If that is IBU, of course, 26 BE. Yep. So yeah, I can see that 20-25 IBUs. Some of that's coming from the grain, some of it's coming from the hops, of course. There's a little bit of sweetness, very bready leaning Vienna Lager this one, but quite a fair bit of graininess to it. But yeah, it gets my approval as a Vienna Lager, and I do like how this goes together. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. Let's go on to our next tasting. Catch you in a second. Alright then guys, so yeah, we'll take a little look at the menu now. So as you can see, the lovely symbol of Das Lemke. So the first couple of pages are all in German, so for the sake of universal understanding, we will skip through these German pages and go to the English menu. So yeah, as I said again, the full name of the brewery, Handwerksbrauerei Lemke, Berlin. So yeah, they've got a nice selection of stuff here. So things that you need to try from Berlin: the liver of veal, Berlin style, Hoppelpoppel, meatballs, Berliner Currywurst, smoked pork roast. That sounds very good, I have to say. Meatballs, Lemke style, the big knuckle of pork. Very, very tempting, I have to say. Yeah, Lemke highlights. These look really good. Remember, €1 is maybe about, what, 90 pence sterling, maybe about $1.20 American, something like this. So this will give you an idea of the prices. But yeah, they've got burgers and stuff here, which is pretty cool. Some different soups, sweet potato soup, pretty interesting. The pot of goulash. Goulash is pretty awesome. You've got the grilled sausage platter. That would be very nice, but I don't think I feel quite fat enough for that, to be honest, to do that myself. That's for two. Sweet finale, Berliner Luft. So yeah, pretty cool. They've got different pastas and things. The Schwabian cheese Spätzle. That sounds pretty cool, actually. Camembert wedges. Yeah, pretty interesting menu, I have to say. They've got a menu of all the different beers here. I'm paying roughly about €3.50 per 300 milliliter beer that I'm drinking, so that's not too bad in fairness. But yeah, there's quite a few different ones listed here, which is pretty cool. They've got their barrel aged series of beers too, which is pretty interesting. I mean, look at these: Imperial Stouts, French Oak barrel aged, barrel blend, rye whiskey barrel aged. It's just kind of crazy, some of the stuff that they've got here. That's the thing that's really cool about this pub, is that just a whole variety of stuff. So they've got, oh, nearly dropping the camera there, they've got some reduced alcohol beers, some hard seltzers and things, long drinks, some different Berliner Weisses there with the different syrups and stuff like that, some regular spirits, non-alcohol stuff. Yeah, fairly solid, well-rounded menu, I have to say. So yeah, I do have to compliment Handwerksbrauerei Lemke on this. They've got an awesome menu here. So yeah, lots of things that you can try. Alright guys, well, time for our penultimate beer review here at Handwerksbrauerei Lemke. So for our second last beer, we've got something that should be a little bit of a monster. So yeah, it said on the tap list that this is an Imperial IPA, but then when the bottle came, it says it's a triple IPA. So I think this is going to be a little bit of a beast. But yeah, a nice way to end the night, I guess. You don't often get to drink a German brewed triple IPA, so why not? And just looking how this one is through the bottle, I think this is going to be a West Coast triple IPA. But yeah, Imperial IPA, 10% ABV. And it does look pretty damn good, actually. I actually asked my server, like, would you pick the IPA over the Imperial IPA? He said, no, I'll go for the Imperial IPA. So me drinking this one is kind of his fault, so that's just how it goes. For this one, they brought me a very nice IPA glass, so I thought that was pretty cool. But let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. So yeah, a 10% triple IPA for my second last review. It's just a bit crazy, to be honest with you, but yeah, why not? Why not? So yeah, that's that done. So as you can see, this beer has poured very, very nicely. Before the head disappears, it is poured with about a quarter finger of a frothy, I would say, perfect cream-coloured head. That's faded away to just be a very thin foamy layer in the middle, and there's a nice kind of ring just sitting around the edge of the glass there. I should point out that that bottle is 330 millilitres, just to be clear. But yeah, colour-wise, this looks pretty nice. There are one or two big bubbles sticking towards the bottom of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but it looks very nice, this. Say, colour-wise, for me, this is quite a rich amber. If I shine it over to the natural light though, it's actually a little bit more of a kind of yellow amber, to be honest with you. So it's not the kind of amberest, can we say that? It's not the most amber of triple or Imperial IPAs that I've come across. I think just looking at this one, this is most likely to be a West Coast IPA. So if we look at the ingredients list, it says, it just says, Gerstenmalz, which is essentially barley malt. So yeah, there's no mention of oats or wheat in here. So this is a pure barley malt triple IPA. That means it's going to be West Coast. But yeah, one of the more yellow-leaning West Coast triple Imperial, whatever you want to call it, IPAs that I've come across in recent times. So yeah, nothing else we really need to say about the appearance of this one. Let's have a closer look at the aroma. Let's do it. Oh yeah, that is pretty damn nice. I'm going to say straight away, it doesn't tell you on the bottle what hops are in this, but I think this is like a really old school West Coast double IPA. This is a style, of course, that is not native to Germany by no stretch of the imagination, but you know, as I've said to you before, it's a very interesting time in the German beer scene because all these brewers who are extremely highly trained are starting to have a go at these more American styles of beer. And they do them pretty damn well whenever they get the chance. But this is ridiculous. So let's just break this aroma down for you then. It's got everything you would want in this style. So the backbone, the malty backbone, it's got a lovely little bit of bread crust there. A wee bit of a slightly brown bread. But on top of that, you're getting a lot of big caramelly notes out of this. As I've said in previous kind of sit-down reviews, when it comes to an Imperial IPA, these ones can go either way. They can be a little bit more oily and kind of caramelly, but they can also be a little bit lighter and biscuity. This one is definitely going around. It is definitely going down the route of being more oily and caramelly and stuff like that. But it works for it. It's a really, really nicely done beer, this one. I get the feeling this is going to be like the IPAs that I've been missing for a long time because the new generation of West Coast IPAs don't have the same bitterness that they used to have. But yeah, this smells so nostalgic, it's unreal. So yeah, a little bit of bread crust, lovely bit of brown bread, a wee bit of white bread, a big oily sweet caramel note coming out of this one. McVitie's digestive biscuit, all of those things are dominating that middle part of the nose, the big malty part of the nose there. It's got everything you would want from this style. Yeah, on the hoppy side of things, on the green component, yeah, this is very, very nicely done once again. So there's a little bit of earthiness in there. Big, deep floral aromaticity, which indicates early edition hopping. Although not mad, I don't think this beer is going to be madly bitter, but you've got a lovely deep floral aromaticity to it, some bright grassy notes as well, and then the fruity notes are huge and oily. So for me, the oily side of the fruity character in this beer is really nice. It's got, I think this has got some of the more old school hops in it. I think there's a bit of Cascade in here because the beer has that soft, light, ready fruit character. It's got a wee bit of passion fruit to it, definitely a bit of a juicy, oily mango, but also at the same time quite a bit of orange. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is something along the lines of like a Citra, Simcoe, Mosaic, Amarillo kind of thing, but also with a bit of Cascade. I think that's what could well be going on with this. Although in fairness, with the orange side of things, it could be Mandarina Bavaria. Because it just has that lovely smooth grassiness that you get from these German hops. So there could be something like that going on. There's definitely an orangey hop and I think two tropical leaning hops. So Citra, Simcoe, maybe Amarillo, but again, maybe a little bit of something else, a little bit Mandarina Bavaria, maybe something a bit closer to home here in Germany. But yeah, beautiful smelling beer, this one. Let's taste it then. Yeah, this is the Imperial IPA, that's its actual name, 10% ABV from Brauhaus Lemke. Stange, skål, cheers, prost. Ooh. I'm going to say straight away, This is almost everything I've missed about West Coast IPAs in so long. Big, oily fruitiness. Sweet malts. Big dank hops. Ooh, this is a proper old school West Coast IPA. That's the best West Coast IPA I've had in quite a while. I wish I could take a bottle of this home with me and do a proper review of it. This is awesome. This is really, really good. Yeah. Yeah. This takes me back to hardcore IPA when I first got used to it. That's lovely. This best beer of the night. The other ones, not to take away anything from the other ones, but this is the best beer I've had so far from Lemke. This is really, really good. Let's break this down then. Middle third of the palate, a little bit of bread crust forming the backbone of the beer. On top of that, a dense brown bready character, but on top of that, a slightly lighter and more kind of puffy white bread note. And then on top of that, that's when you start to get the big brown sugary oily notes coming out of the beer. Yeah, this is so nice. It's just got the perfect balance between being big and sweet and malty, but at the same time being dank and bitter, having these lovely oily but slightly sweet fruity characters. The way that this beer goes together is just awesome, absolutely awesome. Yeah, love it. I think that's everything we need to say about the malt piece. It's just old school. Back third of the palate then. Bread crust is a bit more intense, the brown bready layers are a wee bit thicker than the big. It has a big kind of malty character, a big yeasty character, yeasty malty mix sitting above that, and that's just crazy. You feel this slightly more dense bready note, wee bit of bread crust, but yeah, it's great. Back third of the palate is very tall, the middle third of the palate is a little bit more condensed, but yeah, lovely big bready oily malt base. This one's comparable to the likes of Sierra Nevada Torpedo. It's one of those more oily, caramelly Imperial IPAs rather than being a little bit lighter and biscuity, such as some of the others, but awesome stuff. On the hoppy side of things then, let's look at that. Back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward along the palate, you get a good little bit of, you know, pine raisin just underpinning it, but also a little bit of a brighter Flor Armistice. I would not be surprised if Columbus and Chinook are being used as bittering hops in this beer when I think about it. I really would not be surprised if that's the case. But yeah, grassy side of this beer, lovely big zesty note to it, and that works. Just a beautiful beer this. I really enjoyed this one, potentially the beer of the night. So, fruity side of things then, front third of the palate, border region between front third and middle third of your palate, a wee bit more bready, base of the front third of your palate, again it's a sort of smooth white bready note. On top of that you get the big oily notes at the back of your front palate, the back of the front third of your palate, really nice strong pungent grapefruit. As you go beyond that, a little bit of a lighter, yeah, it has a little bit of a lighter kind of more mango, you know, to it. I think there's definitely a bit of the powerful grapefruit, a bit of the lighter mango, and as you move into the front half of the front third of the palate, this beer gets distinctly more orangey, like Amarillo, big bright Amarillo orange kind of vibes coming out of this beer. But I like it. In terms of the mouthfeel, for me, definitely what would we say? I think it's a full-bodied beer. Yeah, quite a full-bodied beer. Carbonation smooth. It does have a wee bit of that kind of wetness you would expect, just showing you the kind of nice cleanliness. But I think, yeah, this is really good. This is like a proper old school West Coast IPA. about 80 IBUs minimum. Big, just oily, sweet thing. Lots of oily, fruity, juicy notes, lots of free tickets and things like that. It's just a great Imperial IPA. This one, I can feel it going to my head, and I'm tired when I'm filming this review as well. So yeah, this is an awesome beer. Oily orange, stronger grapefruit, you know, juicy mangoes, apricots, all of these kind of things. But yeah, big oily orangey leaning West Coast double IPA for me. It's a big thumbs up. But yeah, mouthfeel wise, yeah, just at the bottom end of full bodied, smooth carbonation, lovely big oily note to it. In terms of IBUs, I think this beer is probably about 70, 80 IBUs, somewhere in the region of that. Carbonation is smooth, just a big oily, kind of slick mouthfeel to this one. So yeah, this was the Imperial IPA, 10% ABV from Brauhaus Lemke in the middle of Berlin. I think we'll do one more review and then we'll probably finish up there. So catch you guys in a second with that one. Alright guys, so I ordered a currywurst and I think you'll agree this is pretty damn impressive. That's a hell of a big sausage there. And I'm looking forward to eating that. So yeah, let's do it. Alright guys, so I've had people say when I'm in these brew pubs and things, they want to see me eat the food, so why not? I'll give it a go. I always felt a little bit weird about eating on camera. I don't mind drinking beer on camera, but why not? We'll have a little look at this. So I showed you the impressive sausage a minute ago. Let's have a look at this, see what it actually tastes like. So yeah, a little bit of sausage, fry it in the curry sauce. There you go. Yeah, pretty nice. Nice. We've also got the kind of country fries, as they're called, as well. Put that in the curry sauce. They're a little bit salty. I think that's good. I think that works. It's actually, when I think about this, compared to other curry sauces that I've had, this is quite a sweet one, and there's little bits of onion and stuff scattered on top of the sausage. So it's kind of like a posh currywurst, this one actually, quite a fancy one. But it's nice, it is very nice. Take another wee cut of it from the sauce. So yeah. Nice stuff. It is nice stuff. Yeah. I like that. Quite a sweet currywurst in my opinion. I was never really that into currywurst when I was in Germany before, but this is pretty nice. Maybe I just didn't appreciate it enough. Yeah, there's a little segment of me eating on camera. So let's leave it at that. We'll do another beer in a second. Alright guys, well, our final tasting then here at Brauhaus Lemke in Berlin. So the last beer that we're going to have a look at today is one of my favourite German styles. We have a few bottles of this left in the fridge over there, so I thought, well, we need to get one of these and review it as part of the brewery visit, I guess we could say. So yeah, the one that we're going to look at now is the Winterbock. It comes in at 6.8% ABV, and as you can probably tell from the appearance, this one is a Doppelbock. So this beer poured with a nice kind of, about half finger of a frothy, I would say kind of ivory coloured head. A few bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head. But overall, I would say that this beer is a nice kind of dark chestnutty colour, and that is to be expected of a German Doppelbock. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on the type of malts that you use, the length of your wort foil, the adjuncts, any barrel aging that you do, and so on. But in the case of the Doppelbock, it will be the type of malts and the length of the wort foil. But yeah, lovely kind of chestnutty coloured beer, this one, and at 6.8%, it is most definitely in the realms of what you would expect from a German Doppelbock. So yeah, pretty awesome, I have to say. Nothing else we really need to say about the appearance of this one. The only other thing we can say is that it is slightly hazy to a degree. But yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one and see how we go. Yeah. Lovely, lovely stuff. So this has everything I would want from a Doppelbock. Straight away you get that big brown bready character. You get the lovely kind of slightly leathery brown sugars. You get a little bit of the sweetness in there. You know, you get these woody, nutty undertones. It's got everything you want. Everything that you want from the style. But I have to say, generally speaking, I've been impressed with the beers that I've had from these guys in this visit. So I would certainly recommend Brauhaus Lemke. So come and check these guys out if you find yourself in Berlin. This is a good place to hang out, actually. Yeah, let's break the aroma this one down and describe it for you properly. So, back one of the beer, a little bit of a kind of bread crusty note there. For sure there are some kind of woody and nutty undertones, but a lot of sweet German rye bread coming out of this one. I really like that. On top of the bread, I'm certainly getting some kind of slightly leathery brown sugary notes. That would indicate a slightly longer wort boil. I'm not sure what the standard length of time for a wort boil in a Doppelbock brew is. I would need to find that out actually. I don't think I've ever homebrewed a Doppelbock, come to think of it. But yeah, certainly you get a little bit of that leathery brown sugar in there. You do get a bit more of a kind of oily caramel sweetness, some McVitie's digestive biscuit for sure. Yeah, aroma-wise, this is pretty damn good. Yeah, you've got a bit of a woody backbone to it, bread crust, the sweeter brown kind of rye bread sort of thing, a little bit of a nutty character, slightly toasted brown sugar, a little bit of a leathery brown sugar, and a more oily kind of thing as well. These are all things that you would want from this style of beer. At the back of the nose, you certainly do get a little bit of a slightly bigger breadiness, and that gives you a bit of a yeasty character for sure. But yeah, aroma-wise, this is very, very nice. Yeah, I like this. I do like how this goes together. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else we really need to say about the malty, yeasty side of this beer. On the hoppy side of things, I do get a little bit of a smooth earthiness out of it. There's a little bit of bright floral aromaticity and also a bit of grassiness. Normally with Doppelbocks, the hop of choice would be Northern Brewer. Northern Brewer is very good for giving you those little red fruity notes that you would want out of this beer style. And at 6.8%, if I remember correctly, this one is the same alcohol as the likes of the Eyinger Celebrator, so that's pretty cool as well. Yeah, aroma-wise, that is pretty interesting. Yeah, so for me, big bready notes, good bit of brown sugar and that little bit of fruitiness that you want. So let's focus on the fruitiness. For me, there is a little bit of a raisiny sharpness to this one. Lovely juicy figgy characters. A bit of a blackcurrant, a bit of a blackberry. These are kind of standard things for this Doppelbock beer style. But as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beers before you get stuck in. I think we should have a taste of this one now and see how we go. So yeah, this one is the Winterbock. I'm trying it at the very end of March 2022, but it should still be good, I'm sure. Let's get stuck in. 6.8% ABV Doppelbock, Slanted, Skull, cheers. Close, my final beer here at Brauhaus Lemke. Oh. Yeah. Absolutely solid example of the style. This is a nice way to round off the night. The guy who was looking after me did me a bit of a solid by pouring this beer. Absolutely. This one, I think was only for takeaway, but yeah, they poured a bottle for me so that I could taste it as my final beer of the evening, because I love Doppelbocks, absolutely love them. If you've watched the channel for any length of time, you know I'm a huge fan of the Scotch ales, the old ales, the German Doppelbocks, the Belgian quadruples. I love these big brown sugary beers. This one is right up my street, and this is a lovely example. Now, Doppelbock scale, I'd say this one has a wee bit of dryness to it. Definitely a bit of that smooth breadiness. There's a good bit of brown sugar to it, which is what you want. Hoppy character is a wee bit pronounced, and you've also got that little bit of fruitiness. So it's an interesting doppelbock, this one. I think that's fair to say. Let's describe this one a wee bit more in depth for you though. So middle third of the palate. Yeah. Backbone of the beer, you get this lovely sort of, roasty, toasty, kind of bread crusty backbone. On top of that, definitely a slightly sweeter, more kind of like German rye bread type vibe. Toward the front of that middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of a nutty character. There's a few woody undertones in there. And then on top of all that breadiness, you start to get the brown sugars. So there's certainly a little bit of leathery brown sugar in there, absolutely. And one thing I would say about this beer is that it gets a little bit darker and more malty the more that you have of it. So yeah, certainly some of that going on. Yeah, on top of that kind of more leathery layer of brown sugar, you start to get a sweeter, more oily caramel, and there's one or two little biscuity notes come out of the beer the further you go into the aftertaste with this one. But yeah, the woodiness, the nuttiness, and that biscuit character, those really linger into the aftertaste. But the malty side of this one is exactly what you would expect of a German doppelbock. That's the middle third of your palate. Back third of your palate, you get a slightly more pronounced grainy note, a thicker brown bready character, which is also a wee bit more grainy, and the yeastiness sits on top of that. Bit of a slightly more dense brown bread, bit of a kind of drier bread crusty character on that as well. But yeah, everything that you would expect in the style. This is a more bready leaning doppelbock rather than anything else. But let's look at the hoppy side of things. Yeah, hoppy side of the beer is pretty much what you'd expect. Back corners of the palate, a little bit earthy. As you move further forward, a wee bit herbal. As you reach the front kind of corners of the palate, it's a little bit more floral and aromatic. Then round the front curve of the tongue, a wee bit lighter and grassy. There's also a little touch of zestiness to this one. And the grassiness in this beer is actually quite wet, which is interesting. But I like it. Let's focus on the front third of the palate then. So border region between front third and middle third, a little bit of bready build-up once again. Base of that front third of your palate is a little bit more kind of smooth and brown bready. And on top of that you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy, fruity esters push their way out of the beer. So let's focus on that. So, fruity side of the beer. I don't get so much of a raisiny note out of this one, but on the back half of that front third of your palate, you do get a little bit of a kind of dainty, sultana type vibe. And as you come further forward, it gets a little bit more oily and figgy. And as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, it certainly has a wee bit of a more, how would we say it, has a wee bit of a more kind of black curranty type vibe. It's a light kind of slightly dry black currant that you get off of this one. So that's quite interesting. Quite a wet, fruity character to this winter bock. But this is, as I said earlier, it's a more bready leaning doppelbock beer, this one, rather than anything else. And it's 6.8%. It's not the strongest doppelbock we've come across, but it's certainly a sort of regular German strength, if we can say that. But this has been a nice beer to end on, I have to say. Let's look at the mouthfeel of this one quickly. So yeah, mouthfeel wise, mid-bodied, carbonation smooth. Not too much. I mean, we have to remember doppelbocks are lager beers, so it's got a little bit of crispiness to it, which is good. In terms of bitterness, I think this one is maybe about 30 25 or 30 IBUs, you're getting a bit of bitterness both from the malt and from the hops. Malt base, as we said, quite smooth, bit of sweetness, bit toasty, a little bit of juicy, fruity character as well, and the hoppiness, yeah, just kind of mixes in with all of that. But yeah, this is a nice beer, this one. I'm glad they still had a few bottles of this. So this was the Winter Bock, a Doppelbock at 6.8%, one of my favourite German styles. I think this is a nice way to round off the tastings. So we'll leave it at that. I'll go outside, give you my final thoughts on Brauhaus Lemke, and that'll be the end of the video. Catch you in a second. Alright guys, well that is me finished up at Brauhaus Lemke here in Hackescher Markt in Berlin. So yeah, I had a really nice evening here, some very very good beers, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I mean, the Bohemian Pilsner I very much enjoyed. The Weizen I also enjoyed. Trying a kind of naked, if we can call it that, Berliner Weisse was also really cool. The Vienna Lager was an interesting one because I was going to get a bottle of what was called a Dunkel Lager in the fridge, but then the guys told me that that was the same beer as the Vienna Lager that I'd already tried on tap, so I just didn't bother with that. But the Imperial Ipa was really really good. That was a proper old school West Coast kind of double, triple IPA, whatever it was, 10% ABV. You guys can make up your own minds about that. And the Winter Bock to finish was really nice actually, a proper just old school kind of bready leaning Doppelbock. You can't ask for much more than that, to be honest. In total that was 39 euros, so 390 Swedish kroner, and that's going to translate to roughly what, about, yeah, £33 sterling, maybe about $45 American. So yeah, to try 6 different beers and also have a currywurst in there, I thought that was pretty damn good value. So yeah, if you get the chance to come to Berlin, you can visit Brauhaus Lemke. They've got the location on Alexanderplatz, which is that way, but the original one is this one at Hackescher Markt. So come, I would say come and check out the original. Original is always a very solid way to go. But really enjoyed my time here. Would thoroughly recommend it to any of you guys. I think it was about 4 hours that I spent here filming this video. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed another little out and about video. We'll see what we can film here in Berlin over the next few days, so stay tuned. But yeah, second out and about video here. So catch you guys on the next one. Slange, skål, and cheers.